Hello, everybody. I'm just checking to make sure that everything is up and running. It is 8:05 Eastern Time, which means that it is time to get to the booking office. I'm Mike. For those who are just checking this out, this is our third installment in the booking office. I should probably change the title here. This is part 3. So what we are doing, for those who are unfamiliar, I suppose, is I have been challenged by John the Body Johnson, host of On the Road, as well as my former broadcast colleague for NWA Anarchy / Anarchy Wrestling, as it's known today, which you can see on Powerbomb TV, I do believe. He is... There we go. There's the thing saying it's finally up and live running. Okay, here we go. So the long and short of it is, he has challenged me to book the 1991 WWF with the WWF heels and the WCW babyfaces. So yeah. Now I should point out here that in all transparency, that I have not actually laid out my entire card for this week. So this is a little bit of booking on the fly, but that's fine. I'm cool with that. We are, right now, last week, we had the Royal Rumble, January 19th, 1991, from the Miami Arena, Miami, Florida. Quick recap. At the Rumble, the Rock and Roll Express defeated the Orient Express in 20 minutes with a roll-up. Sting defeated Dino Bravo in a nice little about 10-minute match by submission with the Scorpion Deathlock. The World Tag Team Champions Power and Glory defeated the Young Pistols by pinfall with whatever Power and Glory's finish was in probably 12 minutes. In about 6 minutes, of which probably 3 or so was Gaga. After the fact, Randy Savage with Sherry Martel and Wildfire Tommy Rich fight to a double disqualification. The Intercontinental Champion, Mr. Perfect, successfully defended his title against Beautiful Bobby Eaton with the Perfect Plex in about 15 minutes. And the Royal Rumble match itself was won by Ron Simmons, who last eliminated The Undertaker. If you want more in-depth than that, check the episode from last week. So today, in our fantasy world, it is Friday, February 1st, 1991. And we are tuning in to NBC to check out The Main Event, which is a 1-hour primetime special, 1 hour-ish. The Main Event was basically whenever they got a primetime special on, or got a special on NBC that wasn't Saturday Night's Main Event. Saturday Night's Main Event was a really big deal in the early days of the national expansion. By this point in 91, Saturday Night's Main Event is more of a every so often thing. It was a regular replacement, periodic replacement for Saturday Night Live for many years. That sort of ceases to be the case by this point. And in fact, the February 1st edition of The Main Event was actually the last time that The Main Event would air on NBC. So we have a few different things to go over here. A few different matches, so let's chit-chat. What we've got to do is, I frankly don't have a lot of TV time between the end of the Rumble and the Main Event. The Main Event was actually taped 3 or 4 days before it aired. It was actually taped on January 28th. It's coming to you from the Macon Coliseum in Macon, Georgia. So, I'm going to take advantage of this to have a very pro WCW-ish crowd. We're in WCW's backyard, so let's book to that. One of the ideas of putting Ron Simmons over in the Rumble was that it's in Florida. And I would be probably billing Ron Simmons as being from Florida in some regard. Probably saying from, at least at the Rumble, we would have introduced him as and put over that he was, from Tallahassee, Florida, by way of Warner Robins, Georgia. On the main event, we're just saying Warner Robins, Georgia. So here is our card. My thoughts on the main event: we have to establish our top tier matches for WrestleMania. I want to get probably 4 matches set for WrestleMania out of the main event. And the main event was only about an hour-long broadcast, so I do not have a wealth of time to do that. I'm going to have probably time for 3 matches. That's how many matches were on the actual main event broadcast. As a throw up here, the original main event, it was 3 matches. They had they had 2 tag matches, and they had a world title match. So here's the deal. Here is the plan, right? So our opening contest is going to wind up being a tag team match, and we're going to wind up having Beautiful Bobby Eaton and Brad Armstrong. They're going to team up to face the team of Mr. Perfect and Rick the Model Martel. Leading up to this, basically, it's just going to be positioning guys for this and for WrestleMania and to get quality wins for everybody. I'll go ahead and put this out there. It's going to be Babyface-a-Palooza here at the main event, with the exception of the main event itself, but it's going to be basically Gaga after the fact. No heels are going over this night. Brad Armstrong is going to pin Mr. Perfect, the Intercontinental Heavyweight Champion, in that tag match. We're going to give him probably 15 minutes-ish. There was a lot of interview time and a lot of segment time and a lot of things like that. And there was actually a big announcement kind of thing set up for on the main event for WrestleMania. We're not going to do as much of that, to be honest. Instead, we are going to dedicate time to the matches and getting some of these guys over a good deal more. So 15 minutes, Brad Armstrong's going to pin Mr. Perfect out of nowhere, and that's going to be a way to set Brad Armstrong up for a match with Perfect at WrestleMania. And we're going to give Brad Armstrong, leading into WrestleMania, some heartfelt promos on TV, talking about the Armstrong legacy and the family and so on like that, and how he's going to do his family proud in Los Angeles at WrestleMania. Second match on the card, and I don't normally do this, to be perfectly honest. I don't normally have the world title on the undercard, but I'm going to here. The World Heavyweight Championship, and we're going to announce it as the main event of the evening, but should it end early, we'll have a standby match. We're pulling an old Bill Watts tactic out of the playbook. But it's going to be Ron Simmons, the winner of the Royal Rumble, versus the World Heavyweight Champion Sergeant Slaughter. Leading up to this, the long and short of the rhetoric is going to be Sergeant Slaughter saying, well, let's shut everybody up. Everyone's saying that Ron Simmons, the all-American, because he's still doing the Iraqi sympathizer gimmick. Everyone's saying that Ron Simmons won the Royal Rumble, that he should be the #1 contender to the title, blah, blah, blah. Well, I'm not going to wait for, someone in the powers that be to decide that Ron Simmons is the #1 contender. I'm going to challenge Ron Simmons. Simmons, if you want my title, come and take it. This sort of thing. And he's going to make it very clear, Simmons, if you don't beat me, you will never see another shot at this title again. Da 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 da. You get one chance to beat me. So Bone and Ron Simmons' promos will all be about basically, all-American, pride in his country, what it would mean to be the world champion, what he would stand, what it stands for, his history up to this point. We're going to get some real heartfelt sit down. We probably can get a sit down interview out of Ron Simmons. I want to show that the babyface, in this case Simmons, is this well-spoken, high-level competitor with a lot of charisma. And we'll get some fired up babyface promos, but I actually want a sit down interview, probably on prime time and probably with Gorilla. Normally they would have done something like that with Gene Okerlund, but I think in this case I want to do it with Gorilla Monsoon. Ultimately, though, in probably 10 minutes, Ron Simmons defeats the World Heavyweight Champion Sergeant Slaughter by disqualification thanks to General Adnan Al-Kaisi. Basically, Simmons hits the power slam and General Adnan, they're close enough to the ropes, Adnan throws sand in his eyes or something like that, and the referee catches it. And Slaughter's going to beat the dog out of Ron Simmons after the match. This is national TV on NBC, so we're not putting juice in any of these. So there is that. And that's actually going to set up our WrestleMania main event. Because, that match is going to end. We'll go to commercial break. When we come back, WWF President Jack Tunney, in something of mirroring something that actually happened on this episode of the main event, will be talking with Mean Gene Okerlund, the ever-charismatic Jack Tunney. And basically Jack Tunney's going to say, well, Mean Gene, Sergeant Slaughter, the World Wrestling Federation champion, made it very clear that if Ron Simmons did not defeat him tonight, that he would not deem him a worthy contender to the championship going forward. The fact remains Ron Simmons not only won the 30-man over-the-top rope Royal Rumble, but tonight he did defeat the World Wrestling Federation champion Sergeant Slaughter, be it by disqualification, but it is a victory over the world's champion nonetheless. So I am mandating that Ron Simmons, the All-American, is the #1 contender to the World Wrestling Federation Championship at WrestleMania, emanating from Los Angeles, California. So that's going to set up our WrestleMania main event. Ron Simmons versus Slaughter for the title. And I don't know that there's a stip on it or not. We'll figure that out as we go. The actual final match on the main event, which we will put over as it was the standby match, is going to be the Rock and Roll Express with Wildfire Tommy Rich, 6-man tag match. They'll be taking on Power and Glory, the World Tag Team Champions, and the Macho King Randy Savage. Essentially, the way this match goes is going to be Rich and Savage have precious little contact. Usually it's going to be Macho in with one half of the Rock and Rolls, and it'll be Tommy Rich in with one half of Power and Glory for most of the match. Your finish is going to be the Rock and Roll Express hitting the double drop kick on Hercules Hernandez for the win. Sort of the sequence leading up to that, there'll be some blah, blah, blah. Rock and Roll Express, House of Fire. Looks like they're about to... We need to have a ref bump in here somewhere. During the comeback, ref accidentally gets glummed. Savage grabs the scepter, goes up top to lower the boom on poor Ricky Morton. Tommy Rich comes to the save, grabs the scepter. Macho jumps off the top rope. There's a bit of a tug of war. Eventually, Sherry tries to get involved. Friggin' have Tommy duck the scepter shot. Macho almost hits Sherry. Tommy punch, shoves Sherry away, grabs the scepter, glums Macho with the scepter. Referee comes to, blah, blah, blah. Rock and Roll's win. So, a lot of gaga at the end, but it's to set up a couple of matches. I'm continuing the Randy Savage, Tommy Rich program. I would have a better finish if I had more time to think about it. But Tommy Rich, Macho needs to continue. That's going to be a match at WrestleMania. Randy Savage versus Tommy Rich. And thinking on it, that's probably my match with the big stipulation, and I'm probably not going to have one on the world title. And then meanwhile, the Rock and Roll Express now have a win on the World Tag Team Champions Power and Glory, and that's going to set up our World Tag title match at WrestleMania, the Rock and Roll Express versus Power and Glory. So, that's pretty much the main event. We've got 4 matches coming out of it, setting up WrestleMania. So, to conclude, your card for the main event. Beautiful Bobby Eaton and Brad Armstrong defeat the Intercontinental Champion Mr. Perfect and the model Rick Martel. And out of that, Brad Armstrong's going to pin Mr. Perfect, so that's going to be one of our matches at WrestleMania, Armstrong versus Perfect for the IC title. We'll probably have Bobby Eaton versus Rick Martel on the card too, somewhere on the undercard. That's a possibility. Maybe it's a dark match. Ron Simmons defeats the World's Heavyweight Champion Sergeant Slaughter by disqualification, and is awarded the #1 contendership as a result, because he has won the Rumble and defeated the World Champion in back-to-back months. And then finally the main event of the evening, the standby match is the last match you see. The world title was the main event. Rock and Roll Express and Wildfire Tommy Rich defeat Power and Glory, the World Tag Team Champions, and the Macho King Randy Savage when Robert Gibson pins Hercules Hernandez after the double drop kick. And there's gaga between Rich and Savage. So, coming up at WrestleMania, you now know 4 of the matches that we're going to have for certain. Coming out of this, we will announce all 3 title matches. Only the world title gets announced on this show. Over the next week, we wind up announcing the 3 remaining matches. We probably will announce the Macho Man Tommy Rich match without announcing the stipulation, and we'll announce the World Tag title match, and then somewhere after that, we're going to announce the IC title. So, WrestleMania, we do know the World Championship will be on the line, Sergeant Slaughter defending against Ron Simmons. The World Tag Team titles will be on the line, Power and Glory defending against the Rock and Roll Express. And the IC title is going to be on the line. It's going to be Mr. Perfect versus Brad Armstrong. And then Wildfire Tommy Rich is going to face the Macho King Randy Savage. That is 4 of our matches for WrestleMania 7. Emanating from the Los Angeles Sports Coliseum in Los Angeles, California. And that's another change I'm going to make. I'm not going to even pretend to say that we are going to try to fill up the LA Olympic Auditorium. Absolutely not. We're going to the smaller building. That's it. Pure and simple. That's all we're going to say. We're not even going to... We're going to forget that we were ever even talking about being in the big Coliseum outdoors. And in this case, I'm doing that because I know good and damn well with this version of the roster, I'm not filling that building up. So, but we can probably put some asses in seats in the smaller venue. So, that is that. That's our booking this morning. So, let me know what you think. It's a fairly short card because it's the main event. I only have an hour. You guys let me know what you think in the comments. If you liked, please subscribe. And, of course, there's the bell. You probably didn't hear it. And, of course, if you have a chance, jump over to our Cafe Press store, cafepress.com/ECS Network. Pick yourself up some cool swag. That does go to help us here on the ECS Network get better lighting, better equipment, and so on. If you are so inclined, become one of our patrons. Jump over to patreon.com/ECS Network. You can become one of our patrons there. So, until next time, folks, that is my look at booking through the main event. And next time we meet, it's time for the Showcase of the Immortals, WrestleMania 8. That'll probably be a long episode, but we'll see it when we get there. Until then, I'm Mike.